Alright guys, for today's video, we're going to be talking about this incident that happened in New Mexico on April the 5th, 2023. This is making its way around the internet, and if you follow police content, you're probably familiar with this story. If you're not familiar with it, I'm going to break it down today for you. This is the story where it was reported in the news that officers responded to the wrong address and it then killed the homeowner. I saw this story, I saw the videos popping up over the weekend, and honestly, I was taking a little break from YouTube and I didn't want to watch this kind of thing. I figured I would get to it eventually. And then the other day, somebody sent it to me on Instagram. So I watched the video and my initial reaction was that I was absolutely horrified. If you watch the video in real time on a cell phone, what transpires in front of you is terrifying and embarrassing. I was absolutely embarrassed for the officers that responded. I had some choice words for them. I did not think very highly of them as police officers, and that was my intention when I came to make this video. Fortunately for me, cooler heads prevailed. I got the video onto my editing software and I began to slow it down. And what you'll see is that something very different actually happened than what has been portrayed on many media sites. If you go to the news and you type in police officers shoot homeowner after responding to wrong address, you get a lot of headlines like this. When you scroll down through, you get to find out that the homeowner was armed. And then when you watch the video, you'll understand why the officers responded the way that they did. And then if you go to YouTube, there's all these pictures of officers responding to the wrong home, shooting the homeowner. It paints a very bad picture of what happened here. So before I get too far into my explanation, what I've done is I made an edit of this officer involved shooting from the angles that are available from beginning to end. And we're going to watch this shooting and then we're going to talk about it. Then we're going to talk about some other incidents that are happening around the country. And then we're going to come back and watch this video in slow motion. And hopefully you will understand what actually happened, and it might give you some insight into what's going on in the mind of an officer when they respond to a call and somebody presents an item to them that may or may not be a firearm, but what's going on in their head at the time. So as I mentioned before, when I first watched this video, I was absolutely appalled by what I saw. And unfortunately, I think the best way to get everybody in the right frame of mind is I'm going to show that video now. So what you're going to see next is the video at real time of the officers responding to the wrong home of a 911 call about domestic violence. And when the homeowner comes to the door, they're going to shoot the homeowner. Then the homeowner's wife comes to the door. She's crying and screaming about her husband being shot. And then the officers are going to open fire on her as well.
Is it 43 or 5308?
Yeah, it might have been 5308.
Is this not 5308? That's what it said right there, right?
No, it's 5305, isn't it?
108. Can you 10-9 the address?
5308 Valley View Avenue at a confidence factor.
Don't tell me I'm wrong.
So right there is the moment that the officers realized they were at the wrong address. And they kind of had a little giggle about it.
Oh, shit.
So the officers had been on scene for probably 3-4 minutes, knocking on the door, announcing their presence. They were getting ready to go to the proper address because the address they were supposed to go to is actually across the street. Right before they had the opportunity to do that, they hear something inside. They hear a homeowner coming towards them, and then you'll see what happens.
Hey, hands up!
Farmington Police!
Oh, shit. Hey, hands up! Cut. Let's move out. Hands up!
Man!
Please don't. Man!
So when you watch the original video, my response was the same as most people's response when they saw that. That was horrible. How can that happen? How can those guys be so stupid? When I watched the video on, I don't know if it's going to pop up here. I originally watched it on police activity. I didn't look too deeply into the comments, but the first 10 or 15 comments I saw were all about police accountability. They said, if you don't want to be held accountable for your actions, become a police officer. Because most people watching that video in real time as it happened think that the police officers were just dummies. They went to the wrong house. When a homeowner came to the door, they freaked out. They were terrified. They shot him. Then the man's wife came to the door calling 911 and they shot at her. This is horrible police work. I think that's what most people thought when they saw the original video. When I watched it, I replied to my friend and I was like, this is freaking horrible. I'm trying not to swear on this video, but I did not have kind words for these officers. And I said, I do want to watch the original footage so that I can slow it down and see what actually happened, because the version he sent me was edited and it had some commentary over it. The commentary that I saw was from the Law and Crime Network. And I think it was actually the first video. Yeah, up here. Their commentary did not paint a very good picture of what actually happened. But the fact of the matter is, this man, when he came to the door, was armed with a firearm. He pointed that firearm at the police officers. And then when the woman came to her husband, she picked up his firearm and pointed at those officers as well, causing them to open fire to defend their lives. Now, when I kind of replied something like that to my friend, and he said, yeah, but the officers were still at the wrong house. I don't know what time it was. We'll assume it's like 2, 3 in the morning. This is a very late hour. It's not unacceptable. I would say it's perfectly okay for a homeowner. I can tell you that me as a homeowner, if someone's banging on my door at 2:30 in the morning, I'm probably going to come to the door with a firearm. I've done it many times. I have a firearm right here. So I'm probably going to come to the door with blading my body, having my gun pretty much like this. I'm not going to have it at the ready, but I'm going to be ready to use it if I have to, if I come to the door at that type of morning. I've also gone to the door in the wee hours of the morning when I was working third shift, while people were picking through my trash. I've actually gone outside with a flashlight in one hand and a gun in the other, blinding the people with my flashlight so they can't tell I have a gun, but ordering them to leave my property. I have done stuff like that in the past. That is completely okay. But the problem is the police were knocking on the door. They were announcing that they were police. And I understand too, people might be afraid that this is a police impersonator. This isn't the real police. Well, look out the window, talk to the people through the door. I can tell you that I have been a police officer for more than 12 years now. I have gone to the wrong address before, probably hundreds of times before. These guys went to the wrong side of the street, which I don't know if this is kind of a country area where both mailboxes were next to each other, and they didn't realize that, they were actually going to the east side of the street when they were supposed to go on the west side of the street. Not sure if it was that kind of situation or if it was a 1 versus a 7. They just looked at the numbers wrong. But I've also been on the completely wrong street before. The area where I work, we have a lot of one-way streets, and I might be driving down the road trying to read what's happening on my computer because all the details of the dispatch run are there. And then I turn up a road where I think I'm going on a one-way north road, which it is a one-way north road, but it's the wrong road. I find the house, 257. I go up and knock on the door, and the people don't know what I'm talking about. This has actually worked out. It's made me look really silly in the past because I've been knocking on the door, had a homeowner come to the door, say, look, I didn't call the police. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'll have the dispatcher do a callback. I'll say, hey, can you do a callback and confirm the address for me? And the dispatcher will say, yeah, the person says they're sitting out on their porch waiting for you. Then I'll get my car and I'll drive down the road, realize I was on the wrong street altogether. That stuff kind of happens. Accidents happen. We're all human. Humans are going to make mistakes. So if someone is knocking on your door at 2, 3 in the morning and you don't know who that person is, why do people think it's okay just to open the door and point a gun at that person? The reason I'm bringing this up is because in this particular case, it's the police officers who are being criticized for going to the wrong house at 2 or 3 in the morning. Like, what is this homeowner supposed to think when this happens? My concern isn't just that this is happening to police officers, is that this appears to be a growing trend in our country where people are coming to the door with a firearm and shooting someone that did not need to be shot. I pulled up a couple of high profile stories about that you may have seen in the news. I also want to point out the disparity in the headlines with these things. But in this one from CNN, it says white homeowner accused of shooting a black teen who went to the wrong house in Kansas City will face 2 felony charges, officials announced. So this is a case where I think this kid was going to pick up his siblings or something like that. Went to the wrong house. When he knocked on the door, he opened the screen door, presumably to get a better knock, or when the homeowner came to the door, he opened the screen door because he thought he was going to be welcomed in. Instead of being welcomed into that house, he was shot in the head. The homeowner then came outside and fired a couple more rounds at him. This young man is fortunately going to live, and he was able to scramble and run away. The homeowner just instantly believed that his house was being broken into. He needed to defend himself. I would say that before you open the door to a stranger that you're not expecting on your property, maybe you should ask that stranger their name and some information about them. This young man, I believe, was completely innocent in this case, was doing something very innocuous, picking up his siblings, and he probably would have answered appropriately and then left. But he was not given the opportunity because he was shot. Here is another case out of upstate New York where a 20-year-old woman was shot and killed after her friend turned down the wrong driveway in upstate New York, officials say. So this is a case where I think it was a group of girls. They're out in upstate New York, which is a country area where people have long driveways and farms. This car turned down the wrong driveway. They drove down this long driveway. Homeowner came outside with a shotgun, started firing rounds at the vehicle that was in his driveway. He killed this young girl. This is not acceptable. People, I don't know what has gotten into people, and I think it's something that has gotten into our country where people are so terrified of being around other people, they've forgotten what the world was like. 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, this stuff wasn't happening. You could go up and knock on somebody's door and not have to worry about being murdered. Our country is in such a heightened state of alert and a heightened state of fear that we're just killing people. This is horrible. I don't know any other way to say it. People need to snap out of whatever the hell it is that's gotten into them. You can't be living in such a state of fear that you're going to shoot at police officers who knock on your door in the middle of the night, that you're going to shoot at a young black man who knocks on your door at whatever time it was, or that you're going to shoot this young white girl simply for driving down your driveway. This is not acceptable. One of the things that I find very concerning about this trend and the way it's being labeled in the media is that on this one, it's the police officers who are being blamed for going to the wrong house. On this one, it's racism that is being blamed for shooting, he didn't die, a young black man. And on this one, nobody seems to care. This is a terrifying trend, and this needs to stop. So back to the video. This particular video, the officers were at the wrong house. They realized that they were in the wrong house. They were about to leave. They reported in their after action report, or what they told the investigators, was that when they were about to turn and go, they heard somebody inside the house load a firearm. That's why I have my firearm here. This is a very distinctive sound. If you've heard that sound before, you're very well aware of it, and you know that you need to be prepared for danger. The door then opened and the homeowner pointed a firearm at the officers. The officers then returned fire. It was really hard to see that at full speed. So what I did is I'm going to break it down. So first we're going to watch the shooting occur once again at full speed. Then we're going to watch it at 10% speed. Then we're going to watch it again at 5% speed.
Had a confidence factor.
Don't tell me I'm wrong. Oh shit. Hey, hands up!
So there you saw it at real time. It was just as shocking as it was before. Now I think you were ready for it. You were looking for a firearm and you might have seen it, but here it is at 10% speed. Tell me if you see it now. Clearly, you can see the man rise a firearm and point it at the officers. Here we go at 5% speed. So he clearly came to the door, armed with a firearm, and pointed at the officers without saying a word. Never announced his presence, never asked them who they were, never challenged them, never told them to leave his property. He just came out guns blazing. The officers did report that they heard a shot, although the body camera doesn't pick that up. It was very chaotic, and their gunfire probably happened almost simultaneously. Another thing that I would like to point out about this video, and it's a very good example, is that the officer's perception on scene is not necessarily what the body camera is going to pick up. The officer was able to see all of those things happening and make a decision and return fire in fractions of a second. When you're watching it on the body camera, you're not there. You can't hear what the officer is hearing in the same amount of detail that the officer is hearing. You can't see what the officer is seeing in the same amount of detail that the officer is seeing. The camera does not pick everything up, and it shows that people are, including myself, are very quick to judge an officer's actions based on what they're seeing on camera, but the camera is only a two-dimensional view of what's happening. The officer is there in 360, and we need to account for that when we're evaluating and we're judging these officers on their decisions. So here is kind of a side angle of what happened. It's absolutely insane. I don't know what possesses someone to do that. So what you're seeing now, this is when the man's wife came to the door and she was screaming and crying about her husband. I have it blown up. I've magnified and slowed down the footage. She's going to be right here in the door. There's the woman. There's her head looking out at the officers. There's her firearm, and that was a muzzle flash. You can see it again. Here she is. In a moment, the firearm is going to be coming up. I don't know if I can pause it right at the perfect time. Right there. That is either a muzzle flash or a flashlight on the end of a firearm. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said about this, but I guess in closing, the most important thing I want to say is I want to apologize for these officers, or apologize to these officers. I apologize for the way I initially viewed that video. I apologize for the things that I said when I initially viewed that video. I was jumping to conclusions. I was uneducated. I didn't have all the facts. I should not have said the things that I said, even if nobody else heard them. I want to caution everybody who watches videos like this, for one, to remember that there's a lot that the videos are seeing, hearing, and even smelling and feeling that you don't have the opportunity to experience when you're watching this video. I also want to urge people caution that if you have a firearm in your house, that's perfectly all right. As a matter of fact, I encourage everyone to have firearms in your home. I encourage people to carry firearms when they're outside of their home. If you want to come to the door with a firearm, I don't have a problem with that either. I've responded to many 911 calls from people who said, I went up, knocked on this dude's house, and he pulled a gun on me. My response to that is, okay, I don't really care. He was at his house. He's allowed to have a firearm. If you're going to approach your front door with a firearm, make sure you know who it is on the other side of that door and what it is that they are doing. If you really believe somebody is breaking into your home, don't open the door. That's something that I tell people all the time, and I get a lot of backlash from people about it. Stay in your house, keep the door locked, don't open the door. If that person forces open your door, then you will understand at that point their intentions, and you can use whatever means you find necessary to defend yourself and your family against that situation. Somebody knocking on your door is not a crime. Everyone in the world is allowed to walk down the sidewalk, turn up your driveway, go to your front door, knock on your door, whatever hour of the day. That is not in itself a crime. If you intend to use deadly force, you have to identify your target and know the intention. This fear that our country is gripped in, that people are all spun up because of what is being said in the news media and what is being said by politicians, is ruining our country, and it's literally killing young people at alarming rates. So if the police come to your house at 2:30 in the morning, they don't belong there, you do not have the right to shoot them. If a young black man comes to your door and knocks on your door and opens your screen door, you do not have the right to shoot him. If a car full of young girls drives down your driveway, you do not have the right to shoot them. I think that's all I'm going to say today. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.